12 News Eye on Agriculture with Britton Rucker.
With more cases of avian flu popping up, we are taking a look at new steps doctors are being asked to take to prevent further spreading. Plus, new regulation changes coming to the equestrian world, and it could impact 4-H and FFA livestock shows. The latest on the Horse Protection Act just ahead. Good evening and welcome into Eye on Agriculture. I'm Britton Rucker. President Donald Trump wasted no time making waves on his first day back in office. Just hours after being sworn in, he signed a flurry of executive orders and announced bold policy plans. Key among them is a proposed 25% tariff on all goods coming from Canada and Mexico, aimed at addressing illegal immigration and drug trafficking. The move could disrupt trade under the USMCA agreement, raise consumer prices, and strain the North American economy. Trump also took action to freeze federal hiring, pause spending tied to the Inflation Reduction Act, and withdraw the U.S. from the Paris Climate Accord and World Health Organization. Lawmakers reacting to President Trump's crackdown on immigration. Some worry regulations could hurt our state's agricultural workforce. But Kansas Senator Jerry Moran says the regulations are necessary.
Thousands and thousands of people cross our border illegally, our borders. That needs to stop. And I think the first step is ending that illegal immigration to our country. You're right, Kansas needs workers in a number of areas, including agriculture, but they need to be here legally.
Farmers across the U.S. making plans to cut costs in 2025, according to a recent AgWeb poll. Topping the list, equipment purchases, with nearly 80% of people saying they're going to scale back. Experts say retrofitting existing machinery is a popular alternative to buying new. Farmers also adjusting economic and agronomic strategies. 61% say they're going to opt for more generic products, and 40% plan to reduce fertilizer rates. However, crop consultants caution against cutting back across the board, urging growers to rely on soil tests for strategic decisions. Fertilizer and herbicide prices, that's going to remain a wild card. While some inputs like nitrogen may see some price relief, experts warn global market changes could disrupt supply chains at any moment. Right now, there is a dire need for lawyers here in Kansas. This week, a Kansas Supreme Court justice told legislatures that the state is nearing a point where it cannot fulfill its constitutional obligation. In Kansas, there are 2 counties with no attorneys. Keith Grant talked with a judge in one of those counties.
We have been in this in Wichita County.
Judge Karina Weedle works in a county with no lawyers. Wichita County has just over 2,000 people living there.
So our caseload is pretty light.
Weedle makes do, but it can be difficult.
You have a child in need of care case where you have to have a guardian ad litem for the child, an attorney for each parent. If there's another interested party, a grandparent seeking custody or anything like that, they all are entitled to an attorney. That quickly uses up all of our resources.
It all hinges on the availability of attorneys. The nearest lawyer handling cases in the county is based an hour away in Garden City. Justice K.J. Wall notes that nearly 50% of Kansas law graduates leave the state after completing their degrees.
It can mean that a lot of folks are trying to maneuver and represent themselves without counsel. Some people have just abandoned the thought of pursuing relief in the courts.
But now, judges like Weedle have been adaptable to the lack of lawyers.
Before, we were really up on doing a lot of things remotely.
Typically, Weedle opens Zoom before hearings start. The defendant will be in the courtroom, but the lawyer will represent them over Zoom.
People would be traveling, attorneys would be traveling 2 hours, a 4-hour round trip for a 10-minute hearing.
Now, Weedle has worked in the court system for a decade, and no attorneys is normal for her.
What do you think it does mean, though, as far as, like, as a state not being able to fulfill a constitutional obligation?
I don't know. It's an American.
One program the state's judicial system is considering would be to mirror the current efforts to bring doctors to rural areas. It would cover the cost of law school for students who commit to working in rural areas after graduation. Big news for Kansas State University. The Kansas Board of Regents approves construction of a new beef cattle research center. Construction set to begin next year. It'll replace the old feedlot on College Avenue. The $16 million facility will include a feedlot for teaching and research, a metabolism barn, and a feed mill with room for 1,200 cattle. It's expected to be completed by 2028. K-State will also gain ownership of 85 acres on Manhattan's east side next month, purchased by the KSU Foundation in 2015. The land will support cattle operations, reducing feed costs for the university's dairy and beef research facilities. Health officials continue to monitor the outbreak of avian flu. The CDC issuing an alert following a few mysterious avian flu cases in the U.S. It involves people who tested positive without any known exposure to animals. The agency now urging doctors and hospitals to perform advanced testing called the subtyping. Officials believe it should be done for all hospital patients who test positive for the flu. Doctors say the risk of avian flu infection still remains low to the general public, but researchers are also looking at other animals on the farm impacted by the virus, including barn cats. Oklahoma lawmakers are trying to ban a very specific type of fertilizer, and you're never going to guess what it's made of.